I hit the party a little late, held up at the base gate ID flashed, quick scan, stamp, salute muscle memory in boots. The road to my mom's subdivision was the same spotless loop it always is, the kind of neat that pretends nothing rotten could ever sprout from that manicured grass. I parked 2 houses down, because security forces, habits die hard, always leave yourself an exit. Country music leaked from the kitchen radio. Barbecue smoke hung sweet and heavy. Rick wore a backwards ball cap and manned the tongs like a game show host. "Soldiers home," he boomed as if I were still a kid asking permission to eat. Mom slid a plate of ribs my way with a tight smile, eyes doing weather reports from face to face. Maddie never looked up, just kept thumbing her phone, red nails slicing across glass like a butter knife through frosting. My plan was simple: eat, sing happy birthday, get out. I thumbed Evan's challenge coin into my jeans pocket, the ridged edge pressing my thigh, a cold reminder to breathe. Rick uncorked wine and cleared his throat. He had a sure thing, he said, a can't miss investment that needed a little cash to get rolling. Maddie kept her eyes on the screen. "Quinn, you've got the steadiest paycheck here. Just a little, we'll all win." "I'm out," I said, flat as a runway after rain. "I'm done rescuing." Silence fell in a neat sheet. The radio slid into an ad. The smoke turned bitter. Rick tried a chuckle. "Not rescuing. I'm just talking a bridge loan like the military. One squad's low on ammo, the other shares. Same mission. We don't friendly fire our people and then ask for spare rounds," I said, setting my fork down. "And this isn't my mission." Mom jumped in. "Maybe just a little to help him over the month." "Maddie's been, I can't." I cut her off, calm but locked. "I've done that enough times." Maddie finally looked up, mouth crooked. "Enough times. Like when I almost lost power because I paid Mom's meds while you were out playing hero." She stood, wineglass in hand, eyes narrowing like she'd sighted a target. "You love Evan's little patch more than the family breathing in front of you." My heart missed a beat. I saw Memorial Day, Evan's kid's fist white-knuckled on my sleeve. I inhaled, held it, diffused the grenade in my chest the way I've trained, count it down. Rick waved a hand. "Come on, Maddie." "Quinn, it's a few grand. We'll make it back by playoffs." "We don't share a wallet," I said, wiping my knuckles with a napkin. "I don't fund gambling, I don't pay off your debts, and I'm done letting anyone requisition my life." Maddie stepped closer. The kitchen light carved a hard line down her cheek, the baseball shadow on the wall stretching long and warped, like somebody else's arm reaching in. "Then why are you even here?" "To flash your little military rules and feel superior." I stood. "I came to say happy birthday to Rick. I'm leaving now. Have a good night." I had one hand on my bag when Maddie moved. The wine left her glass with a soft wet hiss and found my face. Cold red ran over my skin, into my collar, down the cotton shirt I wore under my sweater. It smelled sweet and harsh at once, the hangar reek of spilled fuel dressed up for Sunday. Mom gasped, hands clasped. "Maddie, it's just wine," Rick said, bored. Like rain had blown in and I was making it dramatic. "Don't start. Just wine." The words slid into me like a thin nail. I blinked, let the sting drain from the corner of my eye, and dabbed my face with a paper towel. My hands didn't shake. I've learned how to keep a sight picture when someone laughs in your ear. "Sorry," Maddie said, but it wasn't an apology. It was the voice of someone who throws rocks and pockets her hands. I got heated. "Help one more time, Quinn." "For Mom." Mom looked at me like I was the last raft on the river. "Honey, I'm so tired." I dropped the soggy towel in the sink and turned the tap, let the water cover one more extra heartbeat. "Me too," I said, facing them. "I'm tired of guarding a gate at the base and then guarding the front door of my own life. I'm not opening up for intruders anymore, even if they share my last name." Rick shooed me off with a laugh. "Go on then. Soldiers love to give orders. Go boss around those cars at your gate." I said nothing. I grabbed my coat, did the pat-down wallet, keys, coin. The challenge coin was cold and solid against my fingertips. When I stepped onto the porch, the night opened wide like a clean LZ. The door clicked shut behind me, small sound, decisive. Porch lights spilled across the lawn. Trees swayed like they knew something I didn't. I passed Rick's pickup and caught the stale tobacco soaked into the seats. My car door closed, and the world went quiet. The hush that lives between two distant sirens. My phone buzzed. Mom, don't be mad at your sister. She was impulsive. It was just wine. I stared at the text like it was glitchy surveillance footage. Just wine, like just money, like just this once, like just family. Every just is a bear trap covered with straw. I buckled in and let the engine idle until the ache at the base of my skull unclenched. In the rear view, my face was a watercolor where the wine had started to dry. I thought about Evan and that afternoon in the yard when he pressed the coin into my palm and said, "When you're scared, remember the edge of this metal. That's the border. You stay on this side because you choose to." I shifted into gear and left that too quiet neighborhood. At the base gate, I'd salute again. Study eyes, read intent, wavy people through or turn them away. Tonight, I'd already read the only intent that mattered, and it was sitting at my mother's table. No more open gate. No more rescues. From now on, if you want access to my life, bring the one credential you've never bothered to carry: respect. Streetlights streaked across my windshield as I headed back to base. The only reason I didn't blow up at my mother's house was the old habit of counting breaths under an invisible plate carrier. 4 in. Hold for 4. 4 out, opening and closing a gate no one else could see. I wiped my cheek, the wine still clung to my hair, that sweet harsh smell hanging on like a half-hearted apology. The base marquee glowed familiar. I flashed my ID, a young airman nodded me through, and my own boots answered the concrete with a cadence drum I've marched to for years. In the squad room, I signed the log, grabbed a radio, checked my flashlight rituals that feel like prayer when you've got nothing else. By 21:00, I was in front of the monitors, a grid of black and white squares twitching. Every time my eyes started to dry, I heard Evan's line, "Love means watching each other's 6, but don't stand barebacked in a hail of rounds." In my head, Evan still smiled like summer. At 16, grinding a pickup down a dirt road, he covered my hands on the wheel. "Don't stare at the pothole," he said. "Look where you want to go." When I enlisted, he mailed me a challenge coin from a buddy's unit. "Keep it on you whenever you're scared." At his memorial, after the flag folded into a triangle, someone from his team slid a Ranger tab into an envelope with a note. "He wanted you to have this." That strip of fabric felt like a fallen star in my palm, weightless and heavy at the same time. It became a border, and I swore I wouldn't let anyone track mud across it. I kept the promise clumsily. Early in the Air Force, every time Maddie cried broke, I swapped shifts, worked OT, skimmed my allowances and wired them home. When Mom's power bill hit shutoff, Rick called with a voice like a eulogy. I transferred money on my lunch break and missed a unit day trip. Later, I was saving for K9 handling dreams since day 1, when Rick accidentally chased a bet, and Maddie said it was the last time. I hit send like yanking a pin and throwing it, not thinking about my training fund going bony or the K9 course, email sitting in my inbox like a tiny obituary. I know the script. Once you play rescuer, the world quietly agrees to keep you neck deep in cold water. Every last time is a promised life raft. You're the one doing the swimming. No one asks if your lungs have air. No one asks if there's even a shore. Tonight, when Rick said it was just wine, I realized they've never actually seen me soaked to the skin. The radio cracked. My flight chief, TSGT Valdez, drifted by and set a coffee on my desk without commentary. Her brand of care is military, few words, exact timing. "Harper," she said, "don't carry the whole base home. Do the job right here." I nodded. People think security forces just stand there, but the hardest part is not letting your vigilance turn into judgment. I toggled cameras to the lot, logged a sedan's plate. Anything can become a process if you name it right. I opened my pocket notebook and wrote an ROE for my personal life. 1, no paying other people's debts. 2, no fighting when the goal is to insult. Conduct a tactical withdrawal. 3, preserve evidence. 4, guard Evan's keepsakes like they're my own skin. When I finished, my chest eased like a seatbelt finally clicked. My phone buzzed. "Maddie," a long string of half apology, half accusation. "You're rigid. Mom's crying. We're family." I set the phone down and let it tremble itself out like a dying cicada. I didn't answer. Any reply would be opening the gate for a convoy of chaos. One of the old-timers on nights stopped to brag his kid just got into the guard. I smiled, traded a few lines, then my eyes slid back to the screen. The steady rhythm gave me enough quiet to hear the small voice. What would Evan say if he were here? I pictured him leaning on the doorway, eyebrow up. If this were a breach, what would you do? The answer came as easy as swapping a mag isolate mark. Call the right support. Don't chase a bad guy into the dark. Don't blind yourself with your own flashlight. Before shift change, I thought about my on-base room gray wall with Evan's photo, the shelf with the Ranger tab under glass. I've polished that frame every weekend like a weapon, slow, respectful. Tomorrow I'd open the blinds and let sun lay a hand on the fabric, remind myself. I don't just guard gates. I'm guarding a story, and that story has no space for me to double as anyone's ATM. When relief walked in, I signed the log, turned in my radio, and stepped into air that felt filtered through charcoal. I didn't know yet whether I'd go legal, call the banks, or just go silent and disappear. I did know the first step, call things by their real names. Anything unnamed can't be stopped. In the parking lot, I opened notes and typed it identity theft possible. Then I backspaced the question mark. Not possible. Probable. I locked the screen, slid the phone away, and squeezed the coin until the edge etched my palm's small, deliberate pain. This time I won't dive back into the river. I'll stand on the bank, eye the flood, and draw the line with its true name. Noah was still at the same law office, second floor of a red brick building that looked out over a street lined with old oaks. I parked behind the coffee shop, thinking how everything always looks calmest, right before it sets a new record for chaos. When Noah opened the door, the place smelled like toner, coffee, and bargain aftershave. He smiled the way people do when they've known you long enough to skip small talk. Harper, he said, still using my last name like we were back on post. You bring your docs. I set them down: military ID, driver's license, and 2 harmless-looking envelopes from finance companies I'd gotten last week and hadn't dared open. Noah rolled his chair in, flipped open his laptop, hands moving like he was field stripping an M4. We start with the credit report. No public Wi-Fi logins. He fired up a private hotspot, opened 3 portals. Under my breath, I recited last night's row like an entry code. Don't pay other people's debts. Don't argue when the goal is insult. Preserve evidence. Guard Evan's keepsakes. Okay, Noah sniffed. Here comes the fun part. Rows of neat little lines popped up like a supply manifest: current accounts, new cards, recent inquiries. I stared. Then stared again. My name sat next to a personal loan big enough to give me frostbite just calculating the interest. The open date was the first week of the month. I'd been on gate duty that day. The bank was across state lines in a place I've only ever flown over to make a connection. Under the loan were 2 credit cards from 2 different issuers, both opened within 3 weeks. The mailing addresses weren't mine. One was a P.O. box. The other was an extended stay apartment in a suburb with a football field I've never set foot on. Here, Noah pointed at the notes. First activity: cash advance at an ATM by a strip mall, then a deposit into a sports betting wallet. Classic pathway: grab cash fast, spend it off platform, wait for the bill to hatch. Blood rushed my ears like a rocky creek. You think who? I don't guess people, he said. I guess patterns. Someone with emotional access to you knows your birthday, your SSN, maybe your genius security questions like first pet's name. He looked up. Who's had their hands in your paperwork? I saw Mom's living room drawer, where I used to stash documents back when I didn't own a safe. I saw Rick, helping submit forms while I was away on short stints. I saw Maddie, borrowing my laptop to print concert tickets. Suddenly, all those harmless afternoons lined up like a formation, every step leaving a boot print that wasn't mine. Noah printed a summary. The machine clacked like an indifferent witness, spitting out page after page. I skimmed the address history. A strange address appears 6 months ago, vanishes 2 weeks later. They only need a place to send the cards, Noah said, then forward them. Or use fake docs to activate over the phone. What's step 1? I asked, bracing so I wouldn't slide into salt water. Put a fraud alert on all 3 bureaus. Security freeze your file. Call the loan issuer and file an identity theft affidavit, so they lock the account and flag it as fraud. Then demand copies of the opening document's signature, sign-up channel, IP address if online, and the call recording if it was opened by phone. He slid a checklist across the table with consumer law request templates. I'll draft the cover letters. We'll call it Harper case. Part of me, the kid who thought family is where you set down your weapons, was crying quietly. The other part, the one in boots that knows how to relace after a fall, was updating the AO in my head. Every account is a door kicked open. Every bill is a footprint. Every note is a command advance block hold. My phone vibrated. Mom. I looked at Noah. He nodded and opened a note to log the call. I answered. Don't blow this up, Mom blurted, voice hoarse like she'd sprinted through a meadow of rumors. Maddie was heated. Rick said dumb things. I talked to them. Mom, I said slowly, this isn't hot or cold, it's identity theft. I'm at a law office. I'm freezing my credit and calling the banks. If someone in the house is involved, you always bring up the law to threaten your own family, she snapped. That's soldier talk, not daughter talk. People do dumb things when they're desperate. We're family. Family doesn't use each other's SNs, I said, keeping my voice flat. Family doesn't open cards in another state. Family doesn't pull cash and load a betting app. Silence. Then, soft, like to herself, it's just money, honey. We can pay it back when things settle. No, I said, feeling a quiet wall rise between me and every old script. There are no more justs. I hung up before the plea for understanding could crawl out of the same hole as always. Noah had nearly finished the email drafts. I'll need your signature to chase records on your behalf, he said. And Harper, I know this part hurts, but we need a timeline. Clean. From when your papers lived at your mom's to now. Who touched what? Who borrowed your wallet? Who went with you to a bank? No speculation. Just logs. I nodded and opened my notebook. Sudden clarity, a holiday when Rick asked for a photo of my license to get a veteran's discount, though he isn't one. A night Maddie borrowed my wallet to get milk, and came back with a receipt from a store that sells gift cards. The time Rick texted a picture of me in civvies for fun, with a few not fun jokes under it about our house security officer. I wrote it all down. Nothing added, nothing omitted. Noah clipped the pages into hardback folders labeled Exhibit A Credit Report and Exhibit B Bank Letter Requests. Go home, he said. Change every password, enable 2-factor, ditch the security questions everybody in your family knows, first elementary school and all that. Use a long passphrase. And, Harper, get your important keepsakes out of your mom's house. Evans Ranger tab, are you sure it's exactly where you think it is? The question knifed down my spine. Yes, I answered by reflex. It's at my place. I tried to remember the last time I opened the frame, dusted it, nudged it a hair for symmetry. I could see the wooden frame under Evan's photo as clearly as if it were under my hand. Noah watched me a beat too long. Okay. Don't let anything be just anymore, he said. Not even a strip of cloth. I left with a folder full of paperwork and a strange mix in my chest, lighter because I'd named the thing, heavier because naming it built an entire battlefield. On the sidewalk, wind pushed oak leaves into a hiss that sounded like freshly printed reports lining up in my head. On base I have fences, cameras, a placard screwed to the gatehouse wall. Here I had Noah, a pen, and a checklist. Enough to build a TOC in my living room, 1 map, 1 timeline, 1 hotline, 1 safe egress. I'm done jumping in the water. I'm building bridges and checkpoints. If you want to pass, bring valid credentials and the respect I've been starved of in my own home. I spent the morning turning my living room into a mini TOC. The coffee table became the LZ for the printer, the couch, a supply depot for folders, the wall opposite the TV, my personal AO map, Sharpies, string, sticky notes. Across the center I block-lettered Harper case timeline. Every fresh print slid into an exhibit folder, the way you seat parts on a weapon, not to fire it, but so you don't get fired on. Step 1, fraud alerts with all 3 bureaus. I read every instruction, screenshot the confirmations. Step 2, a security freeze, like dropping a barricade on a door I'd been careless enough to leave cracked. Step 3, the identity theft affidavit. Checkboxes asking if I'd okayed anyone to open accounts for me, if I'd gotten weird emails. I clicked no like I was hammering a nail shut. Noah emailed over 3 request templates, copies of the account opening contracts, activation call recordings, and login logs, IP address, device, location. I filled them out, signed, scanned. The printer buzzed like an angry hornet, oddly comforting. I started building the timeline left side, the open date on the personal loan, next, the 2 credit cards, then the first charges. I pinned a city map and circled the ATM where the cash advance hit. The dot sat on a strip mall, auto shop, convenience store, a bar with a football banner. 4 blocks away, my mother's house. I didn't want to think what I was thinking. Maps don't care about feelings. Noah texted check Rick's social that day. I pulled up his page, blurry photos, trash jokes, sports bet reposts. On the same day as the first cash advance, he's tagged at that exact bar game night with the boys. I printed it and red-circled the timestamp. A string ran from that photo to the ATM dot, then over to exhibit, a credit report. Not a conviction. Just a provable coincidence. I called the banks on speaker, reading the script like a comms code. I'm a victim of identity theft. I'm requesting on the other end industrial politeness. Some wanted a driver's license copy. Some wanted a local police report. I logged everything, asked for case numbers. Every number was an anchor. In a spreadsheet I made columns for date, institution, request, case, hash, response, deadline. Empty cells waited like a range waiting for boot prints. Midday, I lifted Evan's Ranger tab out of its frame and set it beside my challenge coin. I needed them in my line of sight, 1 for discipline, 1 for promise. I told Evan, quiet, maybe crazy, but it aimed me true. I'm not hunting anyone. I'm protecting the border. Back at the wall, I started color-coding: yellow for verified events, blue for requests sent, orange for open questions. When the top row was done, the room looked like a pop-up classroom for how not to get your life stolen 1-1. I snapped a photo for the TOC folder and sent it to Noah. He replied fast, good. Now ATM footage. Call the convenience store, ask retention policy, and pull the bank receipt from that time frame. Sometimes it has a location code. The store manager answered in a gravelly voice and said their system overwrites on a loop. We keep 14 days. I checked my timeline. We had 5 before it vanished. My pulse shifted from road march to sprint. I got his email, and Noah fired a preservation letter before close of business, CCing me. A mailer thumped the door, a bank letter from one of the card issuers faster than expected. Inside was the contract summary for a phone-opened account and a line that said recording available upon request. I called. After hold music and menus, a rep read me the last 3 digits of the caller ID used to activate, matching the area code in my mom's city. I requested the audio issue. She said they'd send a download link in 5-7 business days. I flagged the timeline and strung a line to a box labeled area code. Another ping, the loan department replied with a PDF of the e-signed agreement. In the metadata, a robotish user agent string, and what I was waiting for, an IP address. I pasted it into a lookup. The result geolocated to the same metro area as my mother. A match strike flicked inside my chest. Not a smoking gun, just a tributary flowing the right direction. By late afternoon, sun cut across the strings and paper, throwing a grid of shadows like a topo map. Checklist review, security freeze done. Affidavit done. Demand letters sent. Preservation letter to the convenience store pending. Call recording processing. I printed the Rick bar tag and parked it under peripheral links. I didn't write anyone's name under suspects. In pencil, I wrote social scene. Mom texted to ask if I was coming to dinner. I looked around the room, my wall translating facts better than any of us had translated feelings. On duty, I typed back, even though I was off tonight. Partly because I didn't want another don't make a fuss. Partly because I'd promised myself, no stepping into the emotional AO until the data's in. Phone down. Back to work. Noah popped onto video, wearing the same tired smile as my printer. Harper, good pace. I'll send a settlement demand template for the next phase. Remember, don't confront anyone solo. Not until you've got a fail-safe lawful recording. A witness. Neutral ground. I'll secure the room. Copy, I said. I pinned a small card to the corner of the timeline fail-safe neutral location. Witness, lawful recording, exit route. In my head, the meeting was already a training lane, but that's for another week. Today's mission was to frame the truth so it can't warp. At dusk, I killed the overheads, left the desk lamp on, and let warm light wash over the Ranger tab. The apartment went quiet like a field before first formation. I wrote in my notebook, no revenge. Just returning the truth to its proper place. Then I checked the stack one last time: Exhibit A credit report, Exhibit B bank letter requests, Exhibit C ATM map and social tag, Exhibit D affidavit and freeze confirmations, Exhibit E preservation letters. I closed the binder. The latch made a clean, vault-like click. For the first time in months, I felt like I was standing inside the line instead of wandering outside it. Morning light slid through the blinds and lit the red string on my wall like a safety net. Coffee down, pen up, eyes on the gap dead center of the timeline family notice, boundary and deadline. That square wasn't for feelings. It was for clear words. The way Ari reads on a hot AO. I called Noah first. I'm talking to my mom today, I said. I'm going to say the words identity theft, set a deadline, and log it like a duty shift. Good, he said, clear as kind. No color commentary, facts and choices. After the call, send a written recap so you have a paper trail. And, Harper, don't let it turn into a feelings trial. Copy. I opened my notebook and wrote 3 bullets. This is identity theft. I've filed the affidavit and set freezes. My documents and keepsakes at Mom's house must be segregated. No one touches them. 10-day deadline for whoever's responsible to contact me through Noah and sign a restitution agreement. After day 10, I escalate. I called Mom at 10:10. Her voice came on tired like a frayed extension cord. Honey. Mom, I need to be short and clear, I said, even paced. I'm the victim of identity theft. Someone used my SSN to open a personal loan and 2 credit cards in another state. I've frozen my credit and filed an affidavit with the banks. Silence, then a breath that sounded like a shrug. Are you sure? Maybe it's a mix-up. Don't make this a family thing. It's not a mix-up, I said. There's a cash advance at an ATM 4 blocks from your house. The same day Rick was tagged at the bar in that strip mall. There's an e-contract with an IP address in our city. There's a sports betting load. I'm not naming a person, I'm naming the act identity theft. If it was Rick, I'm not saying it was. I'm saying if he was desperate, she said quickly. It's just money. We can pay it back. No, I said, and felt something quiet and solid rise between me and the old script. No more just. I'm setting a 10-day deadline. Within that window, whoever did this contacts Noah, signs restitution and confession of judgment terms. Day 11, the file goes where it needs to go. That's procedure, not a threat. Also, my papers and any Evan keepsakes at your house get boxed separately today. No one touches them. Can you do that? A tiny yes fell out of her like a dry leaf. I'll box them. Thank you. I wanted to stop there. She didn't. Maddie said she only watched a few papers and then Rick grabbed them. I don't know. I just want peace. I don't need the house version of events, I said. I'll handle facts. And, Mom, no one touches Evan's things. I'll check them myself. You're still my daughter, right? She whispered, half plea, half test. I'm still your daughter, I said. I'm your daughter with boundaries. I'm going to text you a recap. Please reply received so I can file it. Not because I'm turning you into paperwork, because I'm fixing the truth in place. I hung up and typed the recap exactly like a checklist. I've placed fraud alerts and security freezes, filed an identity theft affidavit. My documents/keepsakes at your house must be segregated. 10-day deadline to contact Noah Ortiz and sign restitution/COJ. After that, I escalate. No more just. This is a legal matter. Mom replied in under a minute received. Screenshot. Foldered as Exhibit F messages with date/time. I forwarded it to Noah. He wrote back good. Next, do not argue. Log only. Right on cue, Maddie's name lit the screen. Maddie, what game are you playing? Threatening family with lawyers. Remember who helped you when you were broke. Screenshot. Exhibit F. Another ping. Maddie fine. You want law? You'll get law. Keep hugging that Ranger tab, see if you can keep it when the family stops having your back. My stomach went cold, then steady. I looked at the frame on my shelf. The smart move was the one I'd promised no reaction. Me all further communication goes through Noah Ortiz. I won't argue. Mute thread. Radio static silenced. By midday I drove to Mom's. The door was cracked. Air freshener tried and failed to bury a sour note. A cardboard box sat on the table. I packed by your list, Mom said, eyes skittering past mine. I opened it. Old ID, insurance papers, a stack of letters, a flimsy tin with a dollar store lock. Key. Rick had it, she said. He misplaced it. The back door swung. Rick stood there with a beer and a squint like the son owed him money. Security forces is here to search the house. He laughed. What a production. Couple of mix-ups and the ladies start writing memos. I turned, kept the distance like muscle memory. I'm here for my property. Don't interfere. All further contact goes through counsel. Mom slid between us, voice wobbly. Please. Rick shrugged, took a sip, muttered something about the whole house going to hell because of rules. I lifted the box, walked the hall past a TV replaying an old game like a looped alibi. Every step was a save button. No explanations. No soothing, just tape, marker, lid. Back home I updated the wall family notification, 10-day deadline day 0. Then I pinned 2 small cards day 5, written reminder, day 10, schedule neutral meeting if they engage. I looked at Evan's tab. It sat in the lamplight like a fixed star. I'd said it all, set the clock, shut the door. From here, every road led to truth or to running from it. I wasn't chasing anyone into the dark. A breeze came through the cracked window. I slid Exhibit F on top of the stack. The binder clicked shut, clean and final. On a sticky note, I wrote the only rules that mattered now: no arguing, no excuses, no just. Only truth plus boundaries. The apartment went very still, the kind of still you get on a field moments before rotor wash. I knew what was coming on that wind. It smelled like metal and betrayal. And I was finally ready to see its face. I wasn't looking for it. It found me like a stray round. I was checking bank emails when my phone pushed a marketplace alert suggested, for you military patches. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. A black Ranger tab, the right corner stitched just a hair off, exactly the flaw Evan used to joke only real troops would notice. My throat cinched. The caption read, estate sale, quick move. The price was insultingly low. I tapped the seller. His avatar was snapped in a bar with a big football banner, same bar, in the strip mall, by the ATM I'd already circled on my map. His public friends overlapped with the guys who tag Rick for game night. I screened it all and dropped it into a fresh folder, Exhibit G Marketplace screenshots and seller profile. My hands shook for a second, then steadied as soon as I wrote the new line on my wall, post date location mutuals, same strip mall. I texted Noah, Evans Ranger tab is listed. He replied almost instantly, no arguing over chat. Ask to buy. Objective, verify origin and preserve evidence. It'll get scooped fast. I need it now, I sent back. Fine, he wrote, but get a receipt and, if possible, ask where it came from. Any seller description helps. I messaged the account. He came back quick. Suggested we meet in the lot by a pawn shop a few blocks from my mom's. I said I'd feel better seeing it indoors, under lights. He said to go right into the pawn shop, the owner's holding it. The shop smelled like cold metal and damp wood. The owner was mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, flannel shirt, eyes that had watched too many stories walk in and out. I asked for the tab from the listing. He nodded, disappeared behind the counter, and returned with a small felt tray. Ranger tab, right corner, Frey Evans fingerprint in thread. A tiny click went off somewhere inside my head, a lock turning, or maybe just my heart confirming it still works. I'll take it, I said, voice level. And I'll need a receipt. He flipped open a ledger. I added, can you tell me where it came from? He hesitated, but the business reflex won. Middle-aged guy dropped it off last week, he said slowly. Salt and pepper hair, some stubble, green pickup. Said he was clearing out. I asked for paperwork. He said it was a keepsake, family death, needed to sell. I kept it in the back, figured someone would come looking. I swallowed. Do you have a camera on the counter? He pointed to the ceiling. We record. System overwrites every 30 days. I don't hand footage out. Understood, I said, snapping a discreet photo of the camera angle. My attorney will send a preservation letter. Please hold that window for us. He printed the receipt. I asked him to spell out the details. 1 Ranger tab black, frayed stitch corner right. Received from male, middle-aged, salt and pepper hair, green pickup, date/time, pawn ticket hash, clerk initials. He studied me a beat. You military, I nodded. He exhaled and softened. Thought so. I kept it off the glass. Stuff like this doesn't belong under cheap lights. I paid, slid the tab into a felt pouch. When the fabric nicked my fingertips, a small current ran up my arm, not magic, just memory. Somewhere in my head, Evan laughed that dusty summer laugh. I signed the pawn ticket, asked for a duplicate, took pictures, and filed them as Exhibit H pawnshop receipt and owner statement. I took his number and promised the paperwork would follow. He wrote it down fast, like he didn't want me to change my mind. Outside, the sky had gone darker than it should be. I sat in my car and set the pouch on my thighs, like it was a kid sleeping after a long ride. I texted Noah the receipt photos, the camera placement, and the owner's description. Good, he replied. That's the pivot point. I'll send the preservation letter tonight and CC you. Tomorrow we add a supplement to the bank file's keepsake, sold right arrow motive for quick cash. Harper, you okay? I looked in the rear view. The woman staring back wore the smear of a lot of late nights, but her eyes were bright, not with anger, with disciplined resolve. I'm good, I typed. Good in the military sense. We penciled in an audio-recorded follow-up with the pawn owner if he'd consent time of intake, seller description, vehicle, any memorable lines. Back at my wall, I strung new red from Exhibit G to Exhibit H, then over to Rick's tag at the bar in that same strip mall. The triangle glowed green pickup bar pawn shop ATM, and 4 blocks down, my mother's street. I still didn't write anyone's name in the middle. In pencil I wrote, pattern match, no conclusion yet. At home I laid Evan's tab on a square of felt beside the challenge coin, under the lamp. My hand hovered, then touched the edge the way you touch a flag. I found you, I said out loud. Not triumph. Something heavier and more sacred, the kind of quiet, after a colors ceremony where you stand an extra beat, because you know you did the right thing. The family group chat pinged, but I'd muted it in part 5. I didn't look. Instead, I opened the binder and added a fresh page plan engagement. I listed Noah's non-negotiables for the confrontation phase: neutral venue, witness present, lawful recording, exit wrote, exhibits stacked in order: a credit report, B bank requests / responses, C ATM map and social tag, D affidavit and freeze, E preservation letters, F messages, G marketplace screenshots, H pawn receipt and owner statement. I printed the checklist and clipped it inside the cover. Everything now had a number, like a checked-out weapon, know where it is, when it's used, and why it exists. Before lights out, I wrote one line in my notebook: no revenge. Return things to their rightful place. Then I pictured the meeting not as a fight, but as a roll call of facts read in order, steady, like the names of the fallen. What I would carry into that room wasn't just paper. It was my boundary, built from fabric, metal, toner, and the ink of a signature that would finally say, no one gets to use my name to burn down my life ever again. Noah's firm was on the 3rd floor, hallway carpet a deep quiet blue that swallowed sound like a library. We took the small conference room, long wood table, swivel chairs that creaked only if you tried. I got there early and staged the table the way I'd stage a checkpoint, A through H in order, each binder flagged with a different color tab. In the corner, the Ranger tab sat in a felt pouch, not for show, just a reminder of why I was here. Noah tested the little recorder at center mass and said the opener cleanly. This meeting is being recorded with everyone's consent. He gave me a nod, the calm of someone who's been through 100 pressure changes without a single shot fired. The door opened. Mom came first, clutching her purse, touching my face like a map to the fire exit. Rick followed, polo shirt, the stale blend of old cigarettes and cheap cologne. Maddie closed the door a little too hard. the smirk she meant to wear collapsing into a scowl. Noah gestured to the chairs. "Thanks for coming," he said, professional without frost. "2 items today will review the evidence, then discuss a civil resolution. If we can't reach one, my client will forward the file to the appropriate authorities." I slid Exhibit a credit report across. My name, Quinn Harper, was used to open a personal loan and 2 credit cards across state lines. Here are the open dates, mailing addresses, and first activity. Rick skimmed like it was a takeout menu. Maddie kept her hands in her lap. Mom read every line, mouth flat. Exhibit B, bank letters and responses. These are the bank's replies. An e-contract showing an IP address, geolocated to this city, and the carrier's confirmation of the caller ID used to activate a card, which matches the local area code. I tapped the highlighted sections with my pen. Rick coughed, not like he was choking on paper, more like the room had thinner air than he expected. Exhibit C, ATM map and social tag. A city map with a red dot on the strip mall where the cash advance happened. A printout of Rick tagged at the bar there the same day. "I didn't say you were there," I said. "These are coincident in time and location." Maddie curled her lip. "People tag junk all the time." "Got any proof my dad hit the ATM?" Noah's voice was slow, steady. "We're drawing a pattern. No one's pronouncing a verdict in this room. We're assembling indicators. Exhibit D, affidavit and freeze confirmations. I've filed the identity theft affidavit and placed security freezes. Here are the case numbers." Mom nodded, like the mere presence of agencies was oxygen. Exhibit E, preservation letters. Request to preserve video from the convenience store and the pawn shop within the relevant window. Then Exhibit F, messages. I set down the printed thread, Mom's received, Maddie's jabs, and the line about seeing if I could keep the Ranger tab without the family at my back. Mom reached out, then stopped midair. Maddie snorted. "A joke is evidence now?" Noah didn't flinch. When a keepsake has been sold for cash, language about that keepsake carries weight. Exhibit G, marketplace screenshots. The listing with from estate sale, the seller's profile, the same bar in the background. Exhibit H, pawn shop receipt and owner statement. The signed receipt, with the owner's description, middle-aged male, salt and pepper hair, green pickup. I looked at Rick. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. His gaze snagged on green pickup, pupils tightening like old hinges. Air got heavy enough to make the Ashevak earn its keep. Noah laced his fingers and shifted from presentation to outcome. Here's the picture. Quinn's personal identifiers were used to open accounts in another state. Cash was pulled near Ms. Linda's address. A fallen soldier's Ranger tab was pawned to raise money. My client is fully within her rights to refer this to the district attorney and the state's attorney for identity theft and potentially wire fraud. Today, she's offering a civil resolution first. Mom's voice broke. "Please don't bring the law into." Noah inclined his head. "A civil resolution means this: you sign a restitution agreement covering all debts opened in Quinn's name, legal fees, and a nominal keepsake damage, and you also sign a confession of judgment COJ, so that if you default, the court can issue wage garnishment or other remedies without drawn-out litigation." He slid 2 forms forward. Blanks prepped. Maddie stood so fast her chair hiccuped. "Over my dead." Rick yanked her down. "Sit." He picked up the pages, read a little, looked up. "Let's say it's a mix-up. Lot of tabs look alike. That could be anybody's." I opened the felt pouch and set the Ranger tab on the table. Under the overhead, the slightly off stitch flashed like a thin wave. The room stilled. "It's Evans," I said, steady. "My brother's. I bought it back. I have the receipt and the owner's description of who brought it in. I'm not here for a speech. I'm here for a fix." Mom started crying, the sound of a livy that's been sandbagged for years finally taking water. Maddie's breath went ragged. "Dad, say something." Rick put the pages down and rubbed his temples. "I was short for a while. I asked someone to handle it. I don't know where they got the stuff." Words spread oily and thin, naming no one and staining everything. Noah let the silence do its job. I slid a pen across. "Sign. I don't want promises. Sign, or I file the packet today. I'm done begging anyone to keep the family together. My family doesn't live under a roof shingled with debt and lies." Maddie grit her teeth. "If we sign, that's like admitting guilt." Noah, this is a civil SOJ about money, not a criminal plea. It authorizes Quinn to enforce if you don't pay. It is, frankly, the lightest option on the table right now. I couldn't tell if it was seconds or minutes, but eventually Rick reached for the pen. He looked at my mother. She wiped her cheeks, didn't nod, didn't shake her head. He signed his name, the strokes brittle as dead twigs. Maddie teetered between ripping the paper and dropping into her chair. She chose the chair. "I won't let you drag us into court," she muttered, then signed. Noah rotated the documents back to us and inspected every letter like a serial number. He handed them copies and explained the payment schedule, wage garnishment triggers, and the clause allowing asset sales if they default. I palmed the Ranger tab back into the pouch. Fabric whispered a chapter closing. Noah killed the recorder, saved the file Harper meeting record, and stood. "Thank you. You'll receive the executed PDFs today. Any default, we proceed as discussed at the top." Mom stumbled into my arms, the lightest hug, like cradling a bird that finally got loose. I held still. "You're still my daughter?" she asked small. I looked at her for a long beat. "I'm still your daughter. I'm your daughter with boundaries." She nodded and cried some more, then let go like she finally understood that squeezing too tight is its own kind of chokehold. In the hall, Maddie tossed one last stone over her shoulder. "Happy now?" I didn't turn. I'm not happy. I'm safe. Those are different metrics. The elevator doors slid shut, my reflection looking back not a victor, a gate guard. Inside the conference room, the only sound left was the AC. Noah packed up, then handed me the original COJ Harper. He said, "This isn't an ending. It's the first fence set in concrete." I nodded and filed it behind Exhibit H, like adding steel to a frame. In sunlight, I touched the felt pouch and felt the tabs stitching print a faint line into my palm. I wasn't jubilant. I was steady the way a sturdy door is steady, turn on its hinges at the right moment, shut clean, and stand watch until the weather changes. By morning, Noah had the scanned PDFs in my inbox, settlement agreement, and confession of judgment, a title long enough to serve as a bridge. At the bottom sat two names that had just priced out every it's just we'd ever swallowed, Rick Dalton and Madison Harper. I printed a copy and filed it at the back of the binder. From here on out, any missed payment flips straight to wage garnishment without another family debate. That door is locked. The key lives in a safe, not as a threat, but as a reminder that I finally have a mechanism, not a martyrdom. The banks moved first, polite in that corporate way that somehow sighs between the lines. My identity theft affidavit was accepted. The loan was flagged fraud and queued for reversal. Card issuer #1 confirmed they'd zero out the balance and scrub it from my file once they received the official case number. Card issuer #2 wanted the activation call recording. Noah pushed them the download link and attached the preservation letter they'd already stamped. The cogs turned slow, cold, metallic, but they turned on process, not on my emotions anymore. I briefed my security forces chain, short and tidy, civil matter under control. "I'm mission ready." TSGT Valdez nodded and slid me a proposed PCS to a northern base next quarter. "Change of scenery," she said. "And Harper, those ROE you wrote for your life. They work." I smiled, feeling a patrol loop close and a new route lay itself out. That afternoon I stacked the exhibits on my table. A credit report, B bank responses, C ATM map and social tag, D affidavit and freeze, E preservation letters, F messages, G marketplace screenshots, H pawn receipt and owner statement. I signed settlement. I set Evans Ranger tab on top and capped it with the challenge coin, a tiny pin that holds the whole structure steady. The off-kilter stitch caught a stripe of light and let it go. I touched the fabric's edge. "Your stuff's home," I told Evan. "I'm cleaning up the rest." Mom texted shorter than usual. I read the agreement. "I'll stand on the right side." I stared at the sentence and knew it wasn't a miracle. It was a new habit forming, like learning to stop at a restricted area sign and remain outside the rope. Maddie said nothing. For now, silence counted as peace. The next week was envelopes and stamps and scanners, certified copies, notarized forms, overnight mail. Noah bundled the meeting audio, the pawn receipt, and the shop owner's statement into a clean supplement. The DA's office, where we'd filed a precautionary report, acknowledged receipt, and noted they'd monitor compliance with the civil agreement. Not a trumpet fanfare, just a small green LED at the end of a tunnel. Enough to walk forward without turning my back to the dark. I started boxing up my life for PCS books, uniforms, the 3 unmatched mugs everyone accumulates, rolls of tape. In a separate crate, I lined a square of felt and laid in the Ranger tab and the coin not as trophies, but as mile markers. Wherever I go, the boundary goes. At every base, the first thing I hang isn't the duty roster, it's Evan's frame. Every gate I guard has a person behind it, not just a rule book. On the weekend, I signed up to volunteer with a SAR search and rescue. We met on a dusty clearing by the tree line, some military, some civilians, all of us wearing old radios and a particularly American conviction that when someone's lost, you go look. First session, I learned to flag trails with chem tape, call coords clean, and say we have eyes in a way that doesn't spook the person we came to help. The forest smelled like pine pitch and honest sweat, and my body remembered what it always knows. Protecting isn't only about stopping harm, sometimes it's about walking the good back home. The night before movers came, I stood in my living room, mostly cleared out. The wall that had been my tay was downed to tape ghosts and pinprick holes. I wiped the last dry erase shadows away like squeegeeing rain from glass. In the corner, the I-signed settlement box stood next to 3 civilian cartons. The black marker label looked like a command that had finally executed. I sat cross-legged on the floor, opened the small wooden box, set the Ranger tab on the felt, and placed the coin beside it so edges kissed. The faintest clink like a bolt seating. A door doing exactly what a door is supposed to do. I wrote my last lines in the notebook. No revenge. No emotional rescue. No, just protection is a boundary. Then I added, if they ask why I'm so hard, I'll tell them I'm not hard, I'm clear. Clear like the sign at the gate, enter with honor, leave at ease. Morning, the government truck pulled to the curb. Clipboards, dollies, tie-down straps. I locked the apartment, dropped the key in an envelope, sealed it. On the stoop, I didn't look toward my mother's subdivision. I've already said my goodbyes on paper, in silence, and along a line I'm keeping. Up north, the cold comes early, and the sky is clean slate blue. First night there, I'll hang Evan's frame by the window, then head to the field with the SAR crew. When I get back, I'll set the coin on the nightstand like laying my ID on the gate desk, and I'll sleep the rarest sleep a guard ever gets, not from exhaustion, but from safety. I killed the power, turned the deadbolt, and rotated the key like swinging a hinge. The door closed without drama, just a neat, satisfying click. I smiled. That's the sound of peace with a perimeter, the kind of peace it took me far too long to learn how to name and to place exactly where it belongs.